You feel good? Do you want a water? Do you want me to bring that water bottle so we can have it here for you? You're gonna get very double like that. You get my water. Good evening, everyone. We just wanted to give you a small or a brief message that the other candidate will be here briefly in about 5 minutes, and then we'll get started then. Thank you. Oh, yes, the professor. You get to leave in 15 minutes, they don't show up. No, so the organizers are Josefa from the ACLU. They're in the black t-shirt, standing. And then Alexandra from Faith in the Valley, and they're walking in with the dress. Yeah, they're the organizers. Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Janet. Very well, thank you. Good to see you once again. We should have. It's beautiful on you. Oh, well, thank you. I think we have the same coloring, so this color works for us. Is Molly coming? I don't think so. Okay. So, because it was just when I came in, it was the two.
You guys ready?
Oh,
You guys are both ready? You ready? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for taking time out of your day and joining us for today's Clovis Unified School District Candidate Forum. We'll be having candidates from Area 4 and Area 2 and a message from a candidate from the Area 4. My name is Montserrat Sanchez, and I'm a leader with Faith in the Valley, and I'll share the speaker with my co-moderator here that is also a leader with Faith in the Valley.
Hello, my name is Alfonso Sanchez, and I'm a youth leader with Faith in the Valley.
Cool. Antes de empezar, voy a dar un mensaje en español. Si alguien habla español o ocupa traducción en español, por favor, vaya al área de atrás donde tenemos traductores que están levantando la mano si ocupan equipaje de traducción para que puedan escuchar en lenguaje en vivo. Alrighty. So, before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that all candidates running for the school board were invited to participate in today's forum. However, not all of the candidates could attend due to prior commitments or unforeseen circumstances. We respect their decisions and encourage everyone to seek out more information about all candidates before making an informed choice on election day. Thank you for understanding, and let's proceed with the candidates who are present. No worries. The purpose of this forum is to bring together candidates who are running for Clovis Unified School Board positions. We will provide an open and neutral platform for school board candidates to share their views on key issues affecting our schools and community. This event is designed to foster informed decision-making by allowing voters to hear directly from the candidates, ask questions, and engage in meaningful dialogue. By offering this space, we aim to promote transparency, civic participation, and a better understanding of each candidate's vision for the future of our school district.
We would like to set some community agreements before we get started. Respectful dialogue. All participants, including candidates and audience members, are expected to engage in respectful and civil discourse. Personal attacks, disruptive behavior, or disrespectful language will not be tolerated. Equal time for candidates. Each candidate will be given equal time to speak. Time limits will be enforced for opening statements, response to questions, and closing remarks. A timekeeper will signal when candidates are nearing the end of their allotted time. Stay on topic. Candidates should stay on topic and answer the questions posed by the moderator or audience. Candidates are encouraged to focus on issues relevant to the school district and avoid straying into unrelated topics. No interruptions. Candidates may not interrupt one another. Candidates will each have a chance to speak, and the moderator may allow brief rebuttals if necessary. Audience members should also refrain from interrupting the proceedings. Audience conduct. Audience members are expected to be respectful during the candidate's response. Disruptive behavior may result in removal from the event. No campaign materials. Candidates and their supporters are asked not to distribute campaign materials, flyers, signs, etc. during the forum. For audience members, we will pass around pencils and papers for note-taking and writing their questions down. Towards the end of our time together, we would have designated time to ask questions.
Cool. Now we're going to allow some time for the candidates to introduce themselves. We'll start off with the message from candidate Gina Vu for Area 4, who was not able to be with us tonight.
I regret not being able to join you all this evening, but I want to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of forums like this. Open dialogue is critical for the future of our schools and our children's education. As a first-generation college graduate with a master's degree in applied behavior analysis and a licensed clinician, I have dedicated my life to understanding why people do what they do, because I truly care about our community. I feel a deep sense of duty to serve, a calling that has been placed upon my heart to help our children thrive. Education has transformed my life, and now I want to talk alongside each of you to ensure that our children have the skill set and the support they need to reach their full potential. As a mother of 2 children, one in middle school and one just starting high school, I experienced firsthand the impact of the policies and procedures in our schools. I don't have to wait until issues reach the board to address them. I see them every day. Running for Clovis Unified Board Trustee number 4, I'm giving our community a choice for a mother, educator, and clinician who is deeply committed to serving our children, walking alongside them, and ensuring they have the support and resources they need to flourish. I find joy in helping others, and I view the work as a calling of servitude, guided by compassion, innovation, and purpose. I look forward to future opportunities to connect with you all and work together for the betterment of our community. Wishing you all a wonderful forum, and I look forward to hearing about the valuable conversations that took place. Warm regards, Gina Vu.
Awesome. Now we'll move on to Area 2. Just as a reminder, if you could please say your name, background, position that you're running for. Each of you will have 2 minutes for an opening statement to share more about yourself and your vision for running for Clovis Unified School District. And we'll start with Ms. Wilma Tom Hashimoto.
Good evening, and thank you again for the invitation to present, and thank you to everyone who is here who's taking time to become informed voters. My name is, as she had mentioned, Wilma Tom Hashimoto, and I come here as a 34-year child advocate, 28 years as an educator and administrator, from classroom to administrator to a county administrator, and tying it all in working with the state to bring in the first transitional kindergarten, the first grade level since kindergarten. So I have the experience in terms of being in Clovis Unified for 18 years before I went down to the County Office of Ed, and then also going into the administration. Also in my background, for the past 6 years, I have served as Executive Director for CASA of Fresno Madera counties. Again, serving children who are, if you haven't heard of CASA, we actually serve children who are in the foster care system. Not all of them, but we serve the most at risk, the most abused and the most neglected. And I am at the helm, and I am proud to say that we help one child at a time, and it has been my North Star for 34 years to be able to help every child, and that is my North Star. I'm circling back home, as I say, to Clovis Unified Area 2 to continue on to serve children, and hopefully bringing my experience both within the classroom, within Clovis Unified, and also my outside experience, and bringing that to share my knowledge, my experience as a board member.
Thank you, Ms. Wilma. Now we'll transition over to Ms. Janet Kardashian.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Kardashian. I was born and raised in Fresno. For the past 55 years, I have dedicated my professional life to serving as an educator for Clovis Unified School District. In 1969, I met Dr. Floyd Buchanan, the wise visionary leader and founding superintendent of the distinguished Clovis Unified School District, which has become a benchmark in education. Dr. Buchanan taught me about the ideologies of Clovis Unified School District, and I knew immediately that that was the right place for me to learn and grow and become the best teacher I could possibly be. I have taught every grade and every subject. I have had teaching in my life as a passion, and I'm so happy to say I've had excellent results with reaching every student to have choices in life for their future, and all of them have earned the distinction of being a very highly performing academic student. This was with the help and support of Clovis Unified School District. I come from a family deeply rooted in education and law enforcement. There are many things now that are concerning me, and the reason why I chose to enter this race to seek a position on the governing board of Clovis Unified School District representing Area 2 came from very strong supporters. Those strong supporters are my former students and their families. I've been contacted, encouraged, motivated, inspired, and realized the importance of a voice that needs to be heard on the governing board from somebody who has firsthand extended experience within the district, who grew up in the district when it became unified in 1960 and began its huge expansion. I have been there at its inception. I would appreciate every one of your votes. I'm very highly qualified. My passion is with each and every student for a bright future. I'm running to protect, preserve, and propel the distinction and legacy of Clovis Unified School District to make every student a winner. I would appreciate every vote, and I welcome your questions. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak before this group. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Thank you both for your introductions. Before we continue on to the questions, I would like to acknowledge and thank the UU for offering this room and facility for us to have this discussion, and also the partners who created this forum and made this opportunity for us. Faith in the Valley and ACLU of Northern California, who are hosting this forum tonight. So I wanted to extend a thank you for hosting and making this forum possible. So we're going to move to questions, and we have some questions that were created, and then we'll also offer an opportunity for the audience members to ask questions, and there will be note cards passed around for you all to ask your own questions. The first question we have, and we'll kind of transition over between Wilma and Janet answering the questions, or starting off with answering the questions, and a reminder, you have 2 minutes to answer each question. The first one is, what do you hope to accomplish within the first 100 days in office if elected trustee? We'll start off with Wilma.
I had actually given quite a bit of thought to us, and I didn't go 100 days. I said my first 90 days, so I'm going to get this done quite quickly. In the sense of I want to be part of the district, although I have been there for 18 years, I'm circling back. So within the first couple of weeks, I'm going to be sitting down with the superintendent. I'm going to be also sitting down with the other board members and the executive kitchen cabinet. Let's find out what are the issues right now. I have received them as a candidate and as I spoke with them, but now that I'm in office, let's find out and roll up our sleeves and get busy. The other thing is I am very much a part of the community of Area 2, and my goal is to be able to speak to the teachers, to the administrators, and also to the parents. I have an open door policy at work and in my personal life, and so that's exactly what I plan to do. It's Clovis Unified, this is why I'm going back. It was great training, and I'm looking at the signs. Okay, he's being great about like either you got 2 minutes and all of a sudden it was stop. And so going back to what do I want to accomplish, I want to make sure that my priorities are their priorities, that there's safety on the campus, and not just the external, because I think we're very good about security on the campus checking in, but let's make sure that within our campus that our own students feel safe with each other. If bullying is an issue, let's get to the root of it. And then also too, we want to make sure that there is recruitment and retention of stellar employees, teachers, all levels, and also as well as we need to address the mental health and the balance between wellness and also the rigor of academics.
Thank you. And now, Janet, if you could answer.
Yes. For me, it's not what I will do the first 100 days if I should be elected. It's going to be a continuation of what I have been doing. I'm not a startup. I am a continuation. Since I retired formally, Immediately, I began substituting in Clovis Unified, and I do private tutoring as well. All grades, all subjects, young children, middle school, high school, and adults in college. My experiences have taught me the importance of what education means, and education revolves around teamwork and trust. I have built trust. I'm running for this office because I've been encouraged by members of the community, former students, parents, people who know my track record in education and my success rate. I will address the issues, but I will continue to be visibly present on campuses. I have already met with the superintendent of instruction for Clovis Unified School District before I entered this race to make sure I was in alignment with the ideologies of the district, what my mission is to reach every student as possible and service every student in mind, body, and spirit. I'm very concerned about school safety. We want to make sure that is paramount in our considerations for each day. I want to make sure that we address the fentanyl issue and rid that evil from our children and our schools. And I want to continue the legacy of high academic performance for every student to be an achiever and meet personal goals and have choices in life that will structure for success. And I plan to visit and continue visiting all the campuses, even the ones that aren't in Area 2. Thank you.
Question number 2. What is your long-term vision for the district fair that will shape the direction of our schools and impact the lives of students, teachers, and families for years to come? What specific outcomes do you hope to achieve? Janet, can you answer, please?
My answer is based upon firsthand information from the Clovis community. I am in constant communication with parents throughout all the 7 demographic areas of Clovis Unified School District, and there is a great concern about the future direction that Clovis Unified will be taking. We're faced with many outside interests, and we want to maintain the Clovis way of life that has made Clovis Unified a benchmark in education. And we do that by continuing to build trust. Our parents trust the schools, the teachers, everyone on board. I've chosen the acronym BELIEVE, where every letter in the word believe represents my feelings towards education. And that is building excellence on a legacy, inspiring everyone to value education. And everyone is an all-inclusive term. It's not just pupils, students, parents, it's the community. It's every worker that's on the scene every day educating each child in mind, body, and spirit. It is the custodians, it's the bus driver who gets the children to school on time, the custodians who have the grounds ready to take on the rigors of play on the campuses. It's the teachers, the staff, the office staff, the nurses, the psychologists, the aides, the cooks in the cafeteria preparing breakfasts and meals for these students. It's an all-inclusive term, and this is the type of teamwork that builds education and trust in the community. Thank you.
Janet? Oh, name. Wilma? Sorry.
So in terms of the long-term goals for Clovis Unified, I can say that we have all appreciated the high stellar education that Clovis Unified has offered. In fact, many people, many families, when they move into the area, would look at the test scores and say, wow, this is a great school. Let's continue with that. But let's also be honest with ourselves, because during COVID, we know that not all children nor adults fared very well in terms of being an online education. And for 3 years post-COVID, we are now seeing the effects of lower academics and a lot of mental health issues. So my first response to that long term is let's take care of the vision of academics and the wellness of these children. In addition, we need to be proactive about looking at the population growth in Clovis Unified. As mentioned earlier, it's growing. And so in order to do that, we need to prepare so that we're not impacted, so we're up to 36 students in a classroom. Let's make sure that we continue, as we did this year, that we opened up a new high school complex, and then also will be, and then a new elementary school. We're looking at the demographics, we're planning ahead, so that we're not saying, oh, wow, what are we going to do? In addition, in terms of resources, we need to be honest and open and say our demographics are changing. We need to know that our teachers reflect our students and that our resources, the opportunities need to be given. I spent a good 14 years in Clovis Unified building preschools, and so they were absolutely free to parents who would qualify. That gives an evening following Larry Powell's belief that every child should have the same opportunities for education. That's where I am 34 years later, giving opportunities the same for all children.
Thank you. The next question, regarding student performance and learning, what specific policies or strategies would you implement to make sure every student has equitable opportunities to succeed academically? Wilma?
You're speaking my language. So as the executive director in which we serve foster youth, these children need additional help and resources. I've been very fortunate to be a part of Fresno County Office of Education, as well as 49 other key communities and agencies to help plan how do we help children. And that is, one, trying to keep children in permanent placement, because every time they move, and they don't have to necessarily be foster youth, every time they relocate, for a variety of reasons, there is a 6-month setback in academics. And what do we do when the student transfer in? So I'm not talking about the average of possibly how we raised our children or your neighbors. I'm talking about the children who needed additional support. And that's the question of, like, let's provide that additional support. Resources, what do we need? Can we quickly get an IEP if needed, a 504 to give the support? Can we do the request? What is out in the community? Is it transportation for the parents? And let's be honest, it's not just the academics that we're facing. It's the basic needs for a lot of families, especially in this economy. To avoid food security, what can we provide the family, not just the child? What is it for terms of safety at the home? Is there domestic violence? Let's go upstream and support the entire child, the entire family, and that's going to, again, are my North Star.
Thank you.
A large part of my expertise and success in teaching has been based upon my ability to evaluate, assess, make decisions for what is best for every child in my classroom. I go above and beyond in providing personal levels of getting to know each student by ourselves. I give informal assessments to diagnose the learning modality. We all learn tactically, hands-on, doing something, but everybody has a stronger modality, and it's either auditory, by listening, or visual, by seeing. So I make a list of all my students to see how each one learns the best and service each child. I find out what's going on in their lives to make them available for learning and paying attention. I build trust immediately so that the child knows I can be trusted, I'm support, I'm an advocate, I'm there to bring out the best version of that child in mind, body, and spirit. And there's a lot of nurturing that goes on with that. I pride myself on that. I developed a program for behavior modification to get better results from every child, and I share those during summer demonstration school sessions where I actually teach teachers, and teachers watch me teach and take the ideas and the lessons and implement in their classrooms. So I not only reach students in Clovis Unified, but I've reached students in all the surrounding areas of our school districts. And I think it's very important that we have teachers who know how to do this, and Clovis Unified is excellent for supplying all the resources necessary so that no child will be left behind for any reason. There are multiple levels of interventions, support, and I've taught intervention classes as well as classes for the mentally gifted. So I've covered all spectrums of education. And our goal is to make sure that these students have choices in life, they're happy, they enjoy the learning process, and the best testimony is that these students and their families stay in Clovis or return to Clovis to continue this high level of education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to try to be respectful of 2 minutes each person. Maybe some of the questions we might have to shorten them to 1 minute or a minute and a half, okay?
How would you address existing achievement gaps between different student groups, and what steps will you take to improve student performance overall, especially for those who may be falling behind? Janet, your response, please.
In Clovis Unified School District, we have multiple interventions for each and every child. And before intervention strategies are implemented, we have a team of specialists. They consist with a school nurse, of course the principal, vice principal, there's GIS, and an entire staff, the teacher, of course, who has firsthand daily interaction with every student. And we identify areas of strengths and weaknesses. And if a child is even considered to be at risk, there's a forum that takes place. It's called Student Study Team, known as SST. And this is a forum of the principal, vice principal, nurse, classroom teacher, 2 teachers on staff, usually representing a primary and an upper grade, to meet and discuss a child. These meetings can be inspired from the teacher, the school, or from a parent who's seeking help for school. And we have occupational therapists, physical therapists, a group where we identify what needs to be done, a formal strategic plan is in place, and who's responsible for the implementation of the strategies that we're going to use. And then a follow-up meeting is made, and then usually a final meeting to track the progress and improvement. This is so no child is left behind in any area. And it's not just academics. It can be with physical issues, and it can be with social issues. So we service every child completely, and I've been a part of those forums at every school to make sure that these meetings take place and we get excellent results.
I concur. That is absolutely Clovis Unified, and that is what they have done and done very well. In my experience, I would bring in and build upon the foundation of something already good to make it great. As an early care and education, I'm going to call myself an expert because I helped bring transitional kindergarten. I was in that field for a number of years. But we know between the ages of 0 to 5, brain development occurs 40%. So we need to make sure that we reach out to families, not when they start school at the age of, say, 3.5 for preschool, and sometimes the parents wait until they're 5 years old to start. But let's go back, and if we can find schools, or we have schools, but reach out to the parents and see how we can assist the family. The family is the core, and it should be every time. Let's go back, and I said this earlier, assist the parents, assist the families, and we're going to have successful children for generations. In addition, in terms of adding support, what other support can there be offered? And does everyone know, and I'm going to pull in with when there's a move for foster youth, that the credits are different. I have in my position worked with Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval to talk about higher ed for our foster youth. In addition, I am in constant contact with the State Community Center District to see how we can continue on, whether at the higher education or at vocational. My track is for 0 above 21 years of age. I want to make sure they have a great start and continue on.
Thank you. For this next question, we'll have your response limited to a minute. And question 5 is, California Education Code 83.1 specifically protects students' rights to wear traditional tribal regalia or recognize objects of religious or cultural significance as an adornment at school graduation ceremonies. This law went into effect on January 1st, 2019, and applies to all students in California. Clovis Unified has had a history of denying students the right to wear their traditional regalia during graduation ceremonies, even though the state requires that districts and schools honor students' rights. How do you plan on ensuring the district abides by the law? Wilma?
Well, you're speaking to someone of Asian descent, and I'm pretty sure that I may have had a few flower lays when I graduated from college, and I appreciated that. There was something very strong in terms of the ties to the cultures. And I think that's where we have to honor the uniqueness of individuals. Personally, I like to always know the reason why, whether it is a new law or a policy at a school district, what is the reason behind it? Having said that, I truly believe in the uniqueness of children and having to have to honor, if it's, I'm going to say for me, that I was able to wear, maybe it was a pin, perhaps it was a top underneath the gown, but it was that comfort zone for me, and I felt like my heritage was a part of me. So, but again, I need to look further into the why, if it's already a policy, and why it's not being followed. I don't want to misspeak.
Thank you. Janet?
When I was teaching at Valley Oak Elementary School in Clovis Unified School District, I was approached by the district office to have a multicultural fair at our school. It was one of the best, most acclaimed events that I think any school in Clovis Unified has ever been acknowledged for implementing. We had a day devoted where every student in a classroom chose a country to represent, learn about the culture, everything about the culture, and what went on. And this was the best learning experience. If anybody has a concern related to their culture or ethnicity about what is appropriate or acceptable, my first recommendation is to go to the school and find out and express what they would like to see happen. And it's through that dialogue and that communication that the school can guide a student and its family in the direction to go that is in compliance with the regulations, and see if there are some extenuating circumstances that can be met to make everybody happy.
Question number 6. Many teachers, students, and families find it difficult to attend school board meetings held during regular scheduled hours. How would you make meetings more accessible to community members that can attend or provide comments in person? And we will keep this question at 1 minute as well.
Excuse me, I just want to make clear, I could not quite understand the entire question. I want to make sure I answer and respond.
Many teachers, students, and families find it difficult to attend school board meetings held during regular scheduled hours. How would you make meetings more accessible to community members that can't attend or provide comments in person?
I know, because when I can't go to a school board meeting, I watch it on television. It is accessible for anybody who wants to know what's happening at a Clovis Unified School District board meeting. I believe it's on Saturdays, and it's offered at other times too from streaming. Parents are notified many different ways about communication, and now with technology and social media, parents are kept in tune with everything. Parents are always welcome to contact the school, the board members. They're welcome to get on an agenda and do anything that's necessary for them to be fully informed about people, places, things, and events, and everything going on in their child's school life. It's very important that we keep communication open, and I know one thing Clovis Unified did for me as a teacher when I wanted to keep every one of my parents involved in what I was teaching was they allowed me to teach parent education classes in the evening for parents who were working during the day to come and learn what was going on in Clovis Unified and my classroom. And I engaged families, many of whom were not English speaking, but yet they could help their students by what I taught them, what they could use for materials that we shared from the district, and how
Thank
to
you.
be an effective communicator and get the answers they were seeking.
Okay, thank you. Again, trying to be respectful, a minute each person. Wilma?
Yes, thank you. So in terms of the school board meeting specifically, I think that question's probably in reference, unless you're present, then you won't be able to have the 2 minutes at the dais to be able to speak. And so I totally understand that because one is, I think the school district, I believe the school district has offered it the second and fourth Wednesday of every month in the evenings at 6 o'clock. That works absolutely very well for people who work the traditional hours of 7:30 to 4:30 or 8:30 to 5. But it doesn't work for those who work in non-traditional hours. So perhaps we take a look at maybe we change the policy or the meeting dates to, we offer it at a different time, just to consider those who work non-traditional hours, that they can participate.
Thank you. Again, a minute for this. I think moving forward, these questions, we're going to have a minute just because of time constraints. And so question 7, as trustee, what will you do to ensure that schools provide honest, accurate, and inclusive lessons and textbooks to students, especially in social sciences, including history? Wilma.
The best way, right, is if we're wanting to know what the children are reading, we read it ourselves. So what is the curriculum that's been approved? What's the secondary curriculum, the books that are being brought to the classroom? That's the best way. I don't want to go by hearsay of like, hey, did you know this was going on? I want to be able to just prove it to myself. And that's my research. That's always been the way I do things, of actually learning how, what is going on, and because it's too easy for things to get misconstrued. We see that with laws and policies, and when we go back to the source, it just reads differently in our beliefs, and it changes everything in our lens, our point of view.
Thank you. Janet?
Historically, Clovis Unified School District has done an excellent job in communicating with parents and what is being taught to the children. And it's based upon a system of checks and balances that make sense. At each school, there are grade level teams where the team members for each grade level work together, they coordinate lessons, they share what's being taught, how it's being taught, so the lessons are equitable between all the students in the grade level, so they're all receiving the same types of instruction. And it's very important that parents ask their children what they're learning and actually take a peek at their books and their assignments and monitor, of course, their progress, but the interest and the feedback that each student can provide for a parent, and the parents know that they are welcome at any time to contact a teacher, especially now through the internet, by emailing and being in contact. So there are lots of things in place right now that, of course, can always be improved upon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question number 8. California laws require all public schools to teach unbiased LGBTQ+, inclusive and comprehensive sex ed at least once in middle school and once in high school. What plans do you have to ensure that this sex ed is effectively taught in your district? Janet, your response, please.
I follow the rules. I'm a teacher, a professional educator. I set a good example for others to follow. So I would find out what the rules are, how I can incorporate the lessons and teach the material, and also offer students resources to have their questions answered. And if I can't answer their questions, I will make sure that there is a professional educator on the team, whether it's physically, mental health, emotional health, so that we can teach the materials, explain them as they should be, and with parental approval and knowledge about what's going on in their child's academic life.
I concur that it's absolutely important that one is, it's not just the law, it's actually what's best for children in terms of, I'm going to keep going back to my foster youth, and in terms of inclusivity, you look at where they are in the schools, they may have a little bit less in terms of the credits because of the less emphasis on academics when they were growing up. And then they have the challenges of being bullied at the elementary level. So we need to get back to, one, teaching all children that they're all valued, and that's we need to be able to make sure that policies are in place for anti-bullying, and that's actually through education at all levels, and it just doesn't occur in the classroom. It's a policy across the school district, and guess what? It really starts at the home.
Thank you. Question number 9. With students' health and safety becoming a growing concern, what commitments will you make to retaining and hiring more mental health personnel like psychologists, counselors, and social workers, and increasing wellness resources like peer counseling programs and wellness centers? 2 minutes for this question. Yeah, 2. Wilma?
I'm very familiar with this because at the table with county agencies, I have been a part of the conversations to make sure that Clovis Unified has employed social workers at the schools and increase, I want to say, voices for the county office of ed to provide the support for children of mental health issues, with children with mental health issues. This is not an isolated, it's that family and not my family. It is across the board, and I don't know if I come across from anyone who hasn't had someone who is touched by it, by a close relative or themselves with mental health issues. These are tough times, and mental health issues is a crisis, and it's very sad when we have 10-year-olds who are saying, I don't want to live anymore, my life doesn't matter. So we need to go back, and the resources, I know, they exist in the county. I know that we can do the same thing and build upon it. Clovis has done a great job, but let's pull out, that's my job. I had done that, and I looked at both counties and statewide, what are other people doing, because it's very dear to my heart, and I want to bring that knowledge and depth of experience back to Clovis and share.
Awesome. Thank you.
We are experiencing and seeing a growing need to service students in the areas of mental health and self-doubt. Our students at earlier and earlier at younger ages are asking more questions and wanting answers. And I think that when parents see this, they need to contact the schools for help and support. And the school needs to be very astute with the teachers paying attention to what the children write. That's why writing is so important now. Technology has its place on the computers and all that. But when children are writing narratives and things about their life that they can share, and a teacher reads a journal and picks up anything, that's that teacher's responsibility to seek the services and the help. It's a red flag that we need to intervene and provide every student with all resources and their families so that every student feels safe at school, feels comfortable in himself or herself or whatever the situation is, and have questions answered and have the support that's necessary to make that student happy and available for learning. So it's very important that the community knows these services are out there and that they can take advantage of them. So there is really now, I think, in existence, no child will be left behind or is left behind, because I know I've made referrals in this area and have gotten very positive results just by reading what children have written in their daily writing or their journals. I pick up on it and we get the issues addressed.
The final question. How do you plan to find a balance between maintaining security and fostering a school environment where all students feel supported and non-threatened? What is your vision for school safety, and does it include police? This question will be two minutes as well. Janet, your response, please.
School safety is my #1 issue of concern, because without school safety, the children are not in school, they're not learning, they're not being educated. So our schools must be safe. This comes through education, practice. We have drills, we have procedures, we have sounds, certain whistles. They're all signals. The children are trained to know what to do if there's any type of inclination of a threat or a possible threat. They know how to go on lockdown, Everybody knows the procedures. They know what to do if they're in the restroom, if they're in the library, if they're in the cafeteria, and this is practice. It goes far beyond fire drills. It goes to lockdown. And in addition to that, there's communication between the parents and the school, where the school is informing parents of anything going on, giving up-to-minute dates, updates to the parents to know what's going on. Education is so vital to the safety, and it is so important that our students feel comfortable at school, that they feel protected, and it goes back to trust again. These parents trust when they're saying goodbye to their children in the mornings to go off to the school day. They're just hoping that their child has a wonderful day at school that is safe, first and foremost, safe. So Clovis does a great job with law enforcement, with experts in the community to promote the safety of everybody on the campuses of every school site.
I had actually opened up in terms of my priority that school safety is of absolute my highest priority. And I started off to say we need to be not just the external threats of the person that may come onto campus, because the school district has been very proactive in terms of having the securities of the doors, the locks on the doors, and also making sure that check-ins. But not everyone, if you're going on campus for ill thought, they're going to check in. But so in that regards, that is probably taken care of, but we need to keep up to date in additional security measures. In addition, I'm very concerned about where it started from. That person who walked on campus as an 18, 19-year-old who's angry. He was once a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and at what point did it turn that he became angry, that he felt like violence was the answer? And at what point was bullying allowed and accepted? So again, that mental wellness piece, it's coupled together with security and mental wellness, is that we need to address that early on. We need to know what see the signs, get the help, and do the follow through. A 72-hour hold in a facility doesn't help. I've seen that firsthand with our youth. We need to follow it with additional support for that student when he or she returns, and then also at the home, because it's very challenging for whoever is watching that child and who's suffering from depression or is so angry that they think violence is an answer.
Thank you to both Wilma and Janet. That concludes the questions we have. And now we would like to open it up to audience members if you have any questions and you'd like to ask the candidates. We could go by raising your hand, and then we could ask those questions. Oh, would you like to actually come up here and ask it, just so that they get to hear?
Sorry.
Thank you so much. I know every word that you're saying is important, and I want to be prepared to answer your question.
Okay. So I wrote my master's thesis on LGBTQ youth in Clovis and Fresno Unified. How do you believe our LGBTQ youth, that's the whole spectrum, including transgender, high school students, should be supported in Clovis Unified? Clovis's reputation is not good.
Every student in Clovis Unified School District should be supported. And I think, once again, open communication is important, and every student needs to feel comfortable and have trust in a teacher to say, there are certain issues that I would like to see addressed. These are my concerns. And it's up to the teacher or a school official or anybody in that capacity needs to listen to the voice of every student, whatever message is being sent. That's first and foremost, and get an accurate interpretation of what that message is. Because once every student has a capability of expressing himself or herself in a way that can be understood by somebody else, and make sure we find out what it is that we would like to be addressed. And I think I'm the mother of 3 and the grandmother of 6. I'm facing these issues now. I have 2 grandsons in Clovis Unified School District currently enrolled in attending schools, and they ask me questions about this and ask me for my guidance and what I think about interacting with issues such as this. And I tell them, first of all, be kind. Be kind to everybody. Everybody is a human being. Everybody's life has value. Everybody's emotions are valuable. And you treat other people the way you would want to be treated, and that's respectfully. And I think that we need to do a better job of letting every student know that there's somebody available and groups of people available to listen to their concerns and how they would be made to feel better and more available for learning. And I think we need to get the professionals in the areas of psychology and mental health and social health, and all of us together working as a team to service every child on that child's level of interest.
Thank you. Wilma?
Acceptance begins at many levels. It should begin at the home. But we also know that sometimes when a child comes out, that they are disowned. They end up homeless. They end up in the foster care. We also know that when it doesn't work out well because they came out in the home where it was supposed to be a safe and secure place, that they have become permanently impaired with a special need. That's a reality. For many of us, we embrace our families, our children, and we hope that they can come to us. That's what we want, but that's not true for all children. If it's not there, then they come and they have a trusted teacher that they wish to speak to. That's confidentiality in the sense of I trust my teacher to be able to share. And it's beyond that, it's also at the district level, and quite honestly, it's a community level. We read it in the headlines, the divisiveness, and it's not uncommon for people to attack, either verbally or physically, LGBTQ. And it's not just the LGBTQ, it's also any marginalized student or population. You'd be amazed when you come out to be a public, I'm running for office, the filters come down. They really do. And I can only imagine that was just a small speck of what I was experiencing. I'm not going to repeat because it's not necessary. But we really need to come together as a community to not only be kind, to be supported, to be educated, and let's not let bullying be a norm. You know, we hear it's, you know, you see something, say something. Yeah, it applies for everything in terms of taking care of our future children.
Thank you. Are there any other audience members that would like to ask a question? Oh yeah, you could come up to the podium and ask it, or do you want to give me your question? The candidates aren't really able to hear you from over there, so if you could come up. Oh yeah, or we could walk that mic.
I promise I'll bring it back.
Thank you. I have a house full of boys, so I have a loud voice so they can hear me because I say they can't. When talking about students with disabilities, there is something called the least dangerous assumption, which means that we believe that they can succeed and they can be successful. So we start with that premise. If that is the case, what will you do, or what do you plan to do in policy to support parents and students that believe that their students can succeed, students with disabilities? And it's a two-part question. So what will you do to support them? And what will you do in your budget so that monies meant for special ed students are not going to attorneys to fight the parents and students not to give them the services, yet they are getting the money. For example, you have a student that might need $5,000 of services, but the attorney is going to cost you $100,000. And so instead of paying the $100,000, you pay the $5,000. So what will you do to support those individuals? Thank you.
Thank you. Within every classroom, there are students with special needs, whether they have been diagnosed formally or not. Every student needs to be serviced. I have also taught special education classes, and I continue to work in the area of special education and my substituting. There is no harder working team of individuals than those in special education. They do not have 1 second of downtime in a day. And usually the ratio of adults to students is about 1.6. So it's almost 2 adults for every child in special education. And there's a huge amount of responsibility that goes along with the care of each one of those children every day, from having gates on the doors because many of them are flight risks depending on what their affliction is, and being with them, holding on to things, just walking out on the playground where everybody's attached and in a line so nobody can run away, being fed snacks throughout the day, making sure they're getting the right snacks in their diet, or if they're fed with a tube, making sure everything is done right. We watch the clock for seconds, so if the student stops breathing, we know who to contact immediately. And with that being said, we need improvement in the area of special education. We need more funding. We need more aides in the classroom. And I know, because I've been a teacher in that situation, I have understanding and compassion that I would go before the school board. I would seek the services of everybody involved, and I would have the outline frame of what my child would need based upon the recommendations of all the experts, whether they're physical, occupational therapists, whoever they are. I work with these people regularly. I know the good that they do. I see the individual educational plans for all these students. But can we get better? Definitely. Can we service more? Yes. But we need funding to pay the aides in the classroom, and I'm an advocate for that.
Okay, transitioning over to Wilma.
First of all, it is the parent that has given birth to the child, and whether or not they were born with a special need or it happened later in an accident. My daughter had a traumatic brain injury at the age of 14. I get it. I know the questions, and I know the advocacy that goes behind it. I also know, too, the extent of the support that is offered by Clovis Unified, as outlined by Janet. I also know that the needs change as well. A child who may just need occupational therapy, OT, may need additional services. So what was in the IEP, the individual plan, it changes, and that's why there's annual meetings. The parents truly need to be honored. They need to be listened to, and what works. We're fortunate enough to have a lot of services in Clovis Unified. We have even more in the county. We need to be able to access it. And not just that, what I have learned, we need to make sure that those resources are known to those who need it, to those in the school district, to the parents. There's a lot of great programs out there, but sometimes I see it as being in silos, or it's like, oh, if you're in the field, you kind of know about it, but not if you're on the outside. So my goal would be, to get to the answer, would be that we make it known, the resources that are out there, we bring it to Clovis, and we hear the parents who are with that child 24/7, with the exception of being in school.
Thank you. Any more audience members that have questions? Oh, come on down. There's two. Okay.
Or actually,
So polite, yes.
I'm going to preface this with, as I'm a Clovis parent, my children were both valedictorians at Clovis East. My biracial grandchildren will not be going to Clovis Unified. My children have said absolutely not, because they're half Venezuelan and they're half Palestinian. And the racial bullying that my children received has colored their thoughts about Clovis Unified. They've both said absolutely not. What can we do in Clovis Unified to stop the racial bullying, which is rampant? My neighbors across the street a couple weeks ago had lovely pictures on their front yard because their daughter's African American. What can be done in Clovis Unified to stop the racial bullying so that you can get some of these children, like my grandkids, back into Clovis?
I am so sorry to hear that. My heartfelt understanding and compassion is with you. Nobody should have to experience that at all. And my question would be too, when any initial incident occurred, was any action taken to contact the school, the principal? And may I ask what results you got, if any?
When my kids were there, a lot from Jeffrey Lynn, so across the street, not much from.
And then when you didn't get a satisfactory response, what was action taken at a higher level? So this should not be allowed at all. As far as I'm concerned, no. And be glad that you were informed about it, because if you're not informed, obviously your children, your grandchildren feel comfortable in sharing this with you, because things can't be changed unless they share what's going on. And we can't give up. We have to be relentless in this area. Other students see this, and either they have compassion for what's going on, or they jump on the bandwagon, and they want to get on board with the others, not really knowing the ramifications of what that can do. This has to be stopped. There's just no other way. It has to be stopped. You know, we try to have our multicultural events, and we talk about diversity and embracing diversity, how important it is, and special the contributions of all the cultures to this country. And I think it's because of lack of understanding, and that's why I made it a point to acknowledge every student. If it was during the traditional December holiday month, I talked about all the cultural special days, whether it was Kwanzaa, Eid, Ramadan, whatever was going on, just so the students could get an understanding and awareness and appreciation of the diverse cultures that we experience. I would say, don't give up on Clovis Unified. Make sure you've exhausted all levels of interventions.
Thank you. Wilma?
Wow, that's all I can say, because, right, we were talking about marginalized, and it's beyond just a day of honoring cultures. It's every day. I don't walk around every day with a cheongsam. This is me. However, how do they know that I'm different in terms of someone else? I have the features. And so we need to recognize that we honor children. Okay, and let me get back, and I know I'm using part of my 2 minutes. I grew up with my dad as kids rode by with their bikes saying, "Ching Chong Chinaman." 40 years later, my daughter in kindergarten comes back and she thinks it's really cute to say something, "Cut the cheese, you're Chinese." She thought it was a game. Has anything changed? And so if it hasn't improved, then let's get to the core of it. And maybe it's even gotten worse with being so brazen. And it goes back to communication at the home, the education. Where is it coming from? The children are born vulnerable, open, happy, but somewhere along the line they're picking it up. If it's not at home, it's one or more children that are getting together and thinking, yeah, there's 3 against 1. We need to listen. We need to be very aware, because the children are those cars that are driving off the cliff without hitting the brake so you don't see it, it's because these kids have been bullied for a variety of reasons. We need to address it as a community. We need to address it at where we can make a difference, and that's where I can as a board member.
Thank you. I think we have one last question.
Thank you. Hey, my name's Roman Raintree. My son graduated in June from Clovis West, and he wasn't allowed to wear his eagle feather amongst a lot of his other regalia. So my question is, are you like the status quo and everybody else, the incumbents and all the other people? Because this isn't anything new. And I thought it was a perfect segue. You know, when we talk about racial bullying, Clovis Unified is notorious for this for generations now, not decades, but generations. So my question is, what specific things would you do to address this, if you even care to address it at all? Thank you.
I care to address it. Each one of us comes from a different cultural background, but we're all human beings. We can't overlook these issues. They have to be addressed. Every single person is entitled to a fair, equitable education. So listening to your story, I'm so sorry to hear that, but what can we do to make it better? We have to continue educating. Now we're not just educating children, we're educating parents, because many of the parents or grandparents grew up at a different time when there were racial slurs about different ethnic groups. We all experienced it. I'm Armenian. My mother got a scholarship to go to college, and the principal called her in his office and said, "Rose, I have to give this to you. You earned this scholarship to college, but don't ever think for anything, for any time, that you will ever amount to anything because you're Armenian." When we bought our first home, in the document for home ownership, it said, "No person of Armenian descent should be a homeowner of this property." I did not know discrimination like that, but I had cousins who did, who were just a few years above me. I know what discrimination is. I've heard about it. But we have to be strong, and we have to educate, and we have to be relentless and not give up. We have to be proud of our heritage, pass on our culture to keep it alive, and not be embarrassed by it. So keep your culture and try through education to reach the people and have your voice be heard, and together we can make a difference.
Thank you. Wilma?
Tag on to that, my dad was in an era of segregation, whites, blacks. He didn't know which bathroom to use. So I understand the difficult choices that society has laid upon. I am endorsed by Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval from Fresno State, and I don't know if you noticed, but his graduation this year of the Hispanic graduating class went viral. Why? Because he allowed the students to recognize their culture. He was the first one to go out there and dance. He became very, very popular. And I think it was very bold of him to acknowledge that this is their culture, it's his culture, and he was a part of it. So I am in favor of recognizing the culture. The headdress, it might not be just because I'm thinking it may block the view of the graduating student behind them, right? The feather or whatever you had requested. I think there's a test of reasonableness in everything, because as I said earlier, culture is important. And to have that with them, it means something. And it also means something to the parents who invested so many years, 13 years of education.
Thank you. Now we're going to allow a minute for each candidate to give their closing remarks or final statements that they weren't able to say earlier. And we'll start off with Wilma for closing statements.
Again, thank you for being here. I wouldn't be running unless I thought I was the best candidate. None of us were. We're in it together, and we want to make Clovis continue to be successful. But I'm running because I feel that my experience as being an educator for 28 years, coupled by 6 years advocating for the most at-risk youth, that's 34 years. In addition, I have a degree from the University of Southern California. I run a business, a nonprofit, so I understand budgets. I understand working with the complexities of laws and also with California Department of Education in terms of when I had to build preschools, which was a novelty across the district. My depth and breadth in working with schools, more importantly, with children, I understand. That is my expertise, that's my experience, and I will continue to be an advocate for children.
Thank you. Janet?
It's very important for me to be able to have the opportunity to serve on the governing board of Clovis Unified for Area 2. I am one of the last actively engaged educators involved regularly and has been continually for 55 years in Clovis Unified School District, who wants to see the ideologies of the district continue to grow and reach the future in the best way possible. I believe I'm the right person to do this based on my ability to make decisions, but the majority of my support comes as a testimony from all my former students and their families, and now I'm teaching grandchildren of my very first students. I am the last line in a legacy of educators who was raised by Dr. Floyd Buchanan, founding superintendent of Clovis Unified. I want to see those ideologies continue, and I want to continue to make Clovis Unified the best school district in the nation or the world, reaching every student one at a time to have the full potential to be successful in mind, body, and spirit through high academic achievement.
2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you to each of the candidates for participating today to host the ACLU of Northern California and Faith in the Valley, and lastly to the community for coming out to the event. Remember, your ballots will arrive in the mail by the week of October 5th.
Yeah, we just want, just to reiterate, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know you might have something to do in the evening, but just thank you so much for coming out and attending the forum tonight. Again, to our gracious host for the facility, the UU, Faith in the Valley, and ACLU for putting this forum together. And then lastly, for the candidates taking time out of your schedule to come out and answer questions for our community. Thank you.